In the realm of Christian theology, the passage from Matthew 16:19, where Jesus proclaims, "And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven. And whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven," is often cited in discussions about spiritual authority and warfare. However, a closer examination of the scripture reveals that its meaning is not necessarily tied to believers binding the devil or demons in spiritual confrontations. To begin with, the context of this verse is crucial. Jesus is speaking to Peter, affirming his role in the establishment of the church. The keys of the kingdom of heaven symbolize authority and responsibility in spiritual matters. This authority is not about engaging in spiritual warfare against malevolent forces but rather about the governance of the community of believers and the proclamation of the gospel. The binding and loosing mentioned here refer primarily to the authority to declare what is permissible or impermissible within the church, as well as the power to forgive sins and administer church discipline. The phrase, "bind on earth," and "loose on earth," denotes the authority to make decisions that reflect God's will, which will be acknowledged in heaven. This implies a divine endorsement of the church's decisions rather than an empowerment for individual believers to engage in direct confrontations with evil spirits. The binding and loosing are about establishing the moral and ethical standards of the Christian community, ensuring that the teachings of Christ are upheld in daily life. Furthermore, the New Testament consistently emphasizes that spiritual warfare is not the responsibility of believers in the sense of binding or casting out demons at will. Instead, spiritual warfare is depicted as a struggle against sin, temptation, and the systemic evils present in the world. Ephesians 6:12 reminds us that, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." This indicates that the battle is not one of personal authority over demonic beings but rather a collective struggle relying on God's power and armor. Moreover, the act of binding and loosing has been interpreted by many theologians as a reflection of the church's mission to proclaim the gospel and administer grace. When the church declares the truth of the gospel, it binds those who reject it while loosing those who accept it into fellowship with God. This interpretation aligns with the overall mission of the church, to spread the message of salvation and to cultivate a community that mirrors the kingdom of heaven on earth.